Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. I, 30, female, am supposed to be getting married to the love of my life in a few months. But my fiance and I are currently not speaking at all. Yesterday, we had an appointment with our caterer to try different foods for the reception, and we couldn't agree on the main course. I was willing to settle for a bland chicken dish only because it was the cheapest option, and our budget is already stretched thin as it is. I don't have much of a family support system, so I don't have parents paying for the wedding. We are having to save money and pay for everything ourselves, which comes with quite a bit of stress. My fiance is an engineer and makes good money, but we agreed that we should keep our wedding simple and not too expensive so he can focus on paying off his student loans. I'm still figuring out my career and never went to college, so I don't make much money. I just work at a coffee shop right now until I figure out my next move. I'd love to start my own business someday, but right now, that just isn't feasible. So while I am helping pay for the wedding as much as I can, I really rely on my fiance to make the final decisions on everything from the guest list to the DJ, since he's funding the majority of our big day. That's why I thought we should go with the chicken. It was the cheapest option the caterer had. No, it wasn't very good, but beggars can't be choosers. My fiance, however, kept saying that he loved the steak and we should give our guests an option of chicken or steak. I was getting so frustrated with him because this obviously wasn't in our budget, and I didn't know why he was entertaining it as an option. I finally said, if you're willing to spend more money, then I'd rather we'd use that money on decorations or my dress. I had been struggling to stick to our budget in both of those areas, and that was what I was most worried about. I thought this would shut down the conversation since up until now he has never wanted to spend more money on those things. But instead, he answered, how about we spend more for all of them? Now, I just thought he was being an idiot and messing with me, and it made me angry. I'm one of those women who has dreamed of her wedding day since I was a little girl, so I didn't think it was funny to dangle that in front of me when it obviously wasn't a real offer. I've cried many tears over the wedding process so far and stress about money. But when I confronted him about being a jerk to joke like that, he told me he was serious. I told him we could talk about it when we got home because I didn't want to make a scene at the caterers. After we left, I demanded to know what had changed. Why was he suddenly willing to splurge on the wedding? He said that the more he thought about it, you only have one wedding and he wanted to give me the wedding of my dreams. I started to cry and hug him. I was so excited. While I understood before why we would prioritize paying off his student loans, I also know how much money he makes, and that amount compared to what he was offering to spend on the wedding made me feel like he was being stingy. I was grateful that he was going to let me get some nicer things now, and I didn't plan on going crazy with the spending. That's when he brought up the one condition for this change. He said he would only agree to spend more money if I agreed to invite my estranged mother to the wedding. I instantly felt my blood pressure rise and angry tears started pouring down my face. I should have known there was a catch. I was so hurt that he wasn't just being generous out of love for me, and even more hurt that he would bring up my mother. This may sound overdramatic, but if you knew my background with that woman, it would all make sense. I screamed at my fiance that I couldn't believe he would do this to me and started to gather my things to leave our apartment. He tried to get me to calm down and talk about it, but I was so worked up. I don't even remember what exactly he said. The last thing I said in my frenzy before slamming the door to the apartment was that the wedding is off. I'd rather have no wedding at all than have my horrible mother there. I cried for days. I couldn't believe someone I love would try to buy me off, basically to manipulate me. But the thing I really didn't understand is why he would want my mom there at all, let alone enough to spend more money just to have her there. He's never even met her, but he's heard my stories about how awful she is. My mom was an addict throughout my whole childhood. We never had enough money to get anything nice, sometimes not even enough for food on the table, because she would waste all our money on her addiction. When I was 15, I left to go live with my sister in another state. That's part of why I never finished school. I also had to start working full time to support myself at that age, all because my mom couldn't take care of me the way a mom should. Why should I want that at my wedding? It makes no sense that my fiancé would want that either, but I'm too angry to make sense of it. At this point, the wedding is off. AITA for cutting ties completely? I calmed down enough to hear my fiancé out. I really wanted answers for why he would make this ultimatum and why he cares about my mom coming. What I didn't include in the original post is that my fiancé lost his parents in a car accident when he was very young. He was raised by his grandparents who have since passed away from old age. So there will not be many family members on his side at our wedding. He told me he had a dream where my mom was giving me away at the altar, and there was a huge smile on my face. He felt like in that dream, the moment was healing for me. He decided after that to bring up inviting my mom to the wedding and even went as far as contacting her to find out if she would be willing and able to come. When they spoke, my mom stated that she didn't think I would ever in a million years let her be present at my wedding. That's when my fiancé decided that he would offer to spend more money on our wedding to get me to agree to inviting her. He doesn't see this as manipulative because he believes his intentions are good, and so that justifies his actions. I'm still not sure what to think or believe. However, I did tell him that calling off the wedding was very rash of me and that I didn't want to break up. He forgave me, and now we are going forward with our original wedding date. I just have to decide what to do next as far as my mom is concerned. I called my mom myself to get a better sense of how she is doing and if I would want her at my wedding. She sounded a little off to me. I don't believe her when she says she has been sober for the last 2 years. It makes me nervous to have her at my wedding because I don't want to risk the big day getting ruined, the same way she has ruined so many days in the past for me. But I know my fiancé really wants her there, and I know his intentions are good. It's tough because I don't know how to approach the money thing with him now. Part of me feels like if he offered to spend more in order to get me to invite my mom, then regardless of if my mom comes, that means there is room in our budget to spend more money. I don't want to demand access to his money, though. I'm going to talk to him tonight and try to come to a mutual decision. Well, guys, it's been a year, and this is probably not the update you're expecting. To start with, I did not end up inviting my mom to the wedding, let alone getting married. I sat down to talk with my fiancé the same night I made that last post, and a lot of new information came to light. When I let him know that I wasn't sure yet about inviting my mom to the wedding, he got really pushy by saying things like, "Don't you want to spend more on your dress, though?" And "I'll let you have any budget if you do this." I told him that it really bothered me how he was dangling that in front of my face like I was a child he was trying to buy off. I didn't like feeling manipulated, but also I still didn't understand why it was so important to him that I rebuild my relationship with my mom if I wasn't feeling ready. His dream story just wasn't adding up to him caring this much about my mom being there. That's when I got the true story out of him. It turns out he had accepted a promotion at work that would have him traveling up to 3 weeks of the month, including weekends, without asking me first. He was trying desperately to get me back in a relationship with my mom so that I would be less lonely while he was gone, since I don't have a lot of friends in our area. And he wanted to sell our house for the profit and have a place for me to stay for free while he was gone. I was so hurt that he took that job without talking to me first, and found it really concerning that he would try to manipulate my life so much to cushion the blow rather than just communicate with me. He did apologize when I stated my side of it, but in the end, I decided it was just too big of a red flag to move forward. Since then, I have actually gone back to school and am working toward a college degree in business. I still don't have a relationship with my mom, but when I'm ready, I'll pursue that. Overall, I believe everything happens for a reason, and I'm happy with my decisions. Whoa, I did not see that last update coming. You're NTA, and I'm happy for you that you found peace with your decision. Major red flags coming from that dude, and if he would make a major decision like that without consulting you first? Just think of what else he might have done without you knowing once you were married. Good for you for sticking up for yourself. You're NTA, and I'm sorry you went through that roller coaster of emotions. Maybe someday he will realize where he went wrong and why it was such an inappropriate way to go about things. If not, that is a very clueless man. A couple of weeks ago, I took a fall and injured my arm. I will admit, I have been known for exaggerating things in the past, so my mom didn't believe me. After a few days, I decided to let it go and move on, self-medicating and all that. Anyway, life moved on as normal. Last week, on day 8 of pain, my mom told me I had to clean my room. Pretty understandable, but my room is also used as the storage room, so I was told to move the boxes around as my grandpa was coming to stay and didn't want him to trip on anything. He sleeps in my bed. The boxes are heavy and it really hurt. I asked her to help. She said no, so I pushed through. Didn't do much because it hurt. I devised a plan. If I continued to lift until my grandpa got there, it would probably hurt more and he'd actually react to it. It was a bad idea. I lifted one of the heavier boxes and felt something pulling my arm, and it was white hot pain. Thankfully, he got in literally minutes later. I don't think my mom would have believed me if he didn't. He ended up taking me to the hospital where they told me my arm was broken. They think it was just fractured, and then I sort of forced it into a worse break by lifting things. My grandpa ended up taking me back to his instead, which is pretty cool. My mom feels guilty and has blamed me for not being more truthful in the past. If I hadn't lied previously, she would have believed me and all that. Grandpa disagrees with her, and I did tell him what I'd planned. He said it was the wrong thing to do, and I shouldn't plan things purely to get other people in trouble, which is what I'd done. I hoped if it was bad enough, my grandpa would blame my mom for it and she'd feel bad. I mean, it worked. I obviously don't like the broken arm side of it, but I guess it's karma for intentionally trying to get my own way. So, AITA, I know I'm in the wrong, a boy who cried wolf and all that, but I still feel like I'm being treated unfairly. I'm grounded for my troubles and had to apologize to my mom. She hasn't apologized to me, which I think is unfair. NTA, because you're 14 and not sure how to get your needs met. I don't think you should be grounded for breaking your own arm other than by malicious compliance, cleaning your room. Your broken arm is the world providing all the feedback you need for that. I'm glad you have your grandpa and can talk to him. NTA, I don't know what everyone else is thinking here, Withholding medical attention from a minor under your care is literally abuse. Also, boy who cried wolf? OP is 14. Children lie about being sick to escape school sometimes, but OP's mother is holding against them a visit to the hospital insisted by the school from when they were 6. That's ridiculous. OP, don't blame yourself for anything. You were injured and needed medical attention. She ignored you and you tried to take care of the situation the only way you knew how. A fracture doesn't just heal on its own. It would have become worse either way. At least it happened when someone was around who cared enough to help you. My wife and I made some mistakes and lost our house. We turned to my mom for help, and she agreed to let us stay. This was one of the hardest periods of my life, and I felt like absolute shit. We live in a one-party consent state, meaning you can film someone without their knowledge. My wife was secretly filming my mom's fiancé and his mom because she thought my mom deserved to know what he was saying. Now, if the guy was cheating or marrying her for her money, I would agree. But the literal issue was he was saying I looked like a weasel, and his mom was saying she was shocked I'm my mom's kid. So my wife did this without telling me and showed my mom. My mom's only concern was, why is my wife filming her in-house and violating her fiancé? My wife said that wasn't the point, but my mom was pissed. She showed him the video and he berated my wife and went on a tangent about how he hates us living here. I did defend her, and eventually my mom calmed him down, but my mom said we had to get out. She gave us 30 days as she is legally required to, but my wife was shocked. When we returned to our room, she went on a rant about how my mom is an evil bitch, has always hated her, is choosing that guy over us. I looked her right in the eyes and said, I don't give a shit about my mom right now. She did this. She had no respect for boundaries, was overly dramatic about something so minor, and she is the reason we are losing our housing, not my mom. My wife burst into tears and is furious with me. NTA, but your wife is. My adult granddaughter, her SO, and their baby live with me. I would be royally pissed if one of them was filming private conversations in my home. A conversation that wasn't even about me, but then tried to use it against someone else. Your wife stirred the shit, and your mother was right to kick you both out. Wow, what a mess. Usually, there are all YTA for not taking her side, but you say you did take her side. I think your wording was a little harsh, but given the moment, it's understandable. Your wife didn't seem to want to take responsibility for any of her decisions, and you called her out on it. NTA. My parents and I have had a bit of a rough relationship. They are rude to my kids because of their identities, and I don't really forgive them for that. I recently found out that I'm pregnant with my 4th child, and I invited close family and friends to a dinner to announce it. I invited about 8 people, including my parents, and said that I had something important I wanted to tell them all, and that it was important that they were there. They all RSVP. My parents didn't show up. I tried calling them after half an hour, but they didn't pick up. We got through dinner and the announcement, and they never showed up. I got a bit worried and decided that if they did not get back to me in the morning, then I would go around their house. They messaged me early this morning saying that they had gone out for drinks last minute and didn't think I'd mind. I got really upset. I said that they freaked me out, and they replied by saying not to overreact and to hurry up and tell them the news. I just didn't reply. I agreed that I might have overreacted last night, but I didn't think they should hear the news if they didn't bother to show up. Here is where I might have been petty. I told everyone who was there last night to not tell my parents and to ignore them if they asked. They all agreed. My parents have asked pretty much everyone, but no one has told, so They still don't know. They called me to berate me and say that I was a petty AH, and that if the news was so important, then why not tell them now? My husband agrees with me, but we both see why they are upset. So, AITA? Sorry for any confusion, but by saying they are rude to my kids because of their identities, I meant that they are homophobic and transphobic. My kids have decided that they want low contact with my parents. I do not force them to be around each other. They can say that it is too much and we won't see my parents anymore. But for now, they want some contact. Is it a little petty? Yes. But I'm totally here for it in this scenario. They knew that you had something important to share. They RSVP'd affirmatively, and then they chose to be disrespectful by not showing up and then not answering their phones. Going out for drinks was more important to them than your news. So they shouldn't get the news until they sincerely apologize for their actions. Not an "I'm sorry you got upset" apology, but an "I'm sorry that we were disrespectful by choosing to skip your dinner and go out for drinks when we knew you had something important to share" apology. NTA. NTA, they had multiple opportunities to show support or at the very least tell you they couldn't make it. They decided a night out was more important than their daughter and reinforced the fact by dodging your calls all night. It could have been handled better and more maturely. Not knowing must hurt, but so does them unapologetically missing a dinner they knew must be of some importance to you.